Yeah, amen, amen. So let's get to it. If you remember, we were looking at 1 Kings 18 here and there, and this week we're going to spend all of our time there. And for those of you who are newer or just joining us on the journey, this is a moment in the Old Testament where the people of God had been, they'd been led to worship this particular false god named Baal. And King Ahab is the king of the nation of Israel at this time, and his wife Jezebel has introduced the nation to this worship of this false god named Baal. Now, the irony is that Baal was thought to be the god of the weather. Okay, so just a little historical background here. The god of the weather. So God said, because they are worshiping Baal, I'm going to make it stop raining for 3 years. It will not rain. Now, they're worshiping the god of the weather, and that's not going too well, right? And so they are 3 years into a drought. Now, to keep that, to give it perspective, this is an agriculturally driven society. That would be the equivalent of, just imagine today, in our country, imagine today there was no more gasoline for the next 3 years. Starting right now. You left church and there was no gasoline available for anything, for anybody, for the United States of America for the next 3 years. What do you think it would feel like 3 years from now? Right, all the people with the electric vehicles, with the solar panels, be like, haha, but the rest of us, I'm thinking about how that would affect your travel plans. There's no more planes. How are you going to get to the grocery store? You're going to get your steps in. And it was that radical of a shift. And so they're 3 years into this because they were worshiping the god of the weather. And God says, he can't make it rain. Like literally, he can't make it rain. Okay, I'll catch it later. So after 3 years of this, God tells his prophet Elijah, he says, now I want you to get the entire nation together, call them to meet at Mount Carmel, and what we're going to do is you call the priests of Baal, and there's 450 priests of Baal plus some other priests, and he's like, it's going to be a showdown, and get the whole nation there, and we will demonstrate who is the one true God over this nation. Who is the one true God that reigns, and it ain't Baal. So that they've all gathered now. This is like the first ever pay-per-view, bigger than the Super Bowl. Taylor Swift is there. No, I'm just kidding. I just made that up. Okay, but everybody's watching. The whole nation, and it's out in the wilderness. It's about it's if you know much about the region, the Bible's full of wilderness stories. There was where people were able to live and exist, and then there was the wilderness, which is usually equated with the desert, with a barren place where things could not grow. So you're in 3 years of drought. You're leaving town to take a day's journey into the wilderness, and all the families of the nation of Israel, they're coming out to Mount Carmel to watch the showdown. They've all traveled out. Now they've gone up this mountain, and here in one corner, standing at 6 foot 4, no, I don't know how tall he was, but is Elijah. And in the other is 450 priests of Baal, plus some other priests and some other people, and it's all about to go down. And this is what Elijah says. If you read 1 Kings 18, he says, you guys build an altar to Baal. I'm going to build an altar to the one true God. We'll each pick a bull and slaughter the bull. They're like Old Testament sacrificial system. You put your bull on your altar. I'll put my bull on my altar. And then we will cry out to our God. And whoever's God can answer by lighting the altar on fire is the one true God. And then Elijah says, since there's so many of y'all, why don't y'all go ahead and go first? Now, this is a passage I love. Elijah gives me a lot of hope. I'm going to tell you exactly why. Because I can be petty. And when I'm being petty, I love reading 1 Kings 18 because I realize it's a spiritual gift. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's not a spiritual gift. But I'll just say I get encouraged when I read Elijah. Let's go to the text. 1 Kings chapter 18. They've been crying out to Baal all day long. It's now noon. And verse 27, Elijah speaks up. And it says, at noon, Elijah began to taunt them. Shout louder, he said. Surely he is God. That's the spiritual gift of sarcasm right there. That's also not a spiritual gift. Don't email me. You can if you want. It's bardo@freedomlifechurch.com. Perhaps, look at Elijah continues, perhaps he is deep in thought. or busy or traveling. Maybe he's asleep and must be awakened. Now, what's fascinating, that word busy right there, if you do a deep study of the Hebrew origin behind there, it literally, like I learned this in seminary. I didn't believe it. I went and studied it for myself. It literally comes from like the root etymology of basically a very loose translation of it would be maybe he's taking a number 2. He's indisposed. He's scrolling social media. He's in the prayer closet. You know what I'm saying? Okay, like literally. Anyway, I'll move on. You can go check that out for yourself. But Elijah is like this. He's like bringing all the smoke, and so he's like, and in verse 29, it gets further. Go a little further, and it says, midday passed, and they continued their frantic prophesying until the time for the evening sacrifice. But there was no response.